Section 1.3, functions. Now, a function is some mathematical term that means that implies some kind of a machine. It has a domain, that's where the function is defined. And it takes the stuff from the domain, dump it in somewhere called a range. And it dumps it in a specific order as prescribed by the function. For example, let's say your function f of x equal to x squared. This notation means that you take whatever's in here and do this to it. Okay, so that's the input and this is the process, what you're supposed to do. Now this particular function has a domain that's the entire real numbers, because any real number can be squared, and the function's job is take whatever number you give it, square it, and spit it out. Now there are functions, of course, that doesn't have the entire real number as its domain. For example, a simple function such as 1 over x. This particular function is not defined when x is 0. So that its domain is everywhere on the real number except for 0, because it won't know what to do with it. So every number on everything else, however, it is able to calculate. The function will do this process to it and spit out the answer in the range. Now there are other functions than just this. This is called a polynomial. Actually, this is called a quadratic function. That's one of the polynomials. This is called a rational function. There are other functions. For example, e to the power x, that's the exponential function. Or else you can even have trigonometrical functions such as sine of x. No matter what kind of function, the process is the same. The function's job is take whatever x that you dump in and do this to the x. This is the description of what do you want done with it. This is what the function does. You will calculate this value and spit it out, and that's the value of the function. A function can be graphed, as you have done before. For example, you can pick different values of x, figure out what f of x is, calculate that, and then you have a bunch of pairs of numbers, and eventually you can plot a whole graph out of it. For example, this function has a graph that looks something like this. Okay, this is the basic quadratic function. And then once you plot it out, after doing a huge amount of work, or you can just use an online grapher, which you type in the number and type in what you want for the range, and this thing will come right out. So you don't have to do any hard work. This, of course, is 1 over x. The function of 1 over x looks something like this. The next one is the exponential function, and the exponential function, of course, looks like this. And then lastly, the sine function is something like this. Go up and down, and it doesn't end. So all these functions have their quality of one thing is that you give them a number, they will crank it out according to their specific function rules. Thus, trigonometrical functions, as you remember from trigonometry, has a bunch of formulas that helps its calculation sometimes. Now, if you can remember those formulas, that would be great. But if not, you can simply look them up as we come to them in the course.